Okay, welcome everybody to our last QI session. I know you're so sad, but today is our last QI session for winter 2019. You guys have done some crazy, amazing stuff. I mean, really amazing. People are starting to do their presentations for the class ahead of you. And I keep thinking, yeah, you should see my students. They are kicking some serious butt there. So you should be very, very proud of yourself, all of you. So what I'd like to do tonight, same as usual, we'll go through questions. We'll see what everybody has problems with X, Y, or Z. We're well into the process now. I have one more PDSA form. And so this last PDSA form, your very last act, so you know how you have your test of change and yada, 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 all the way down. Your last act is going to be how you close this up, how you finish this, because whether you're going on like Julie, her site wants her to continue this, and so she will keep going. But for your school project, QI projects always end. So you will have an ending to this. And that may be this person is going to sustain this piece. This case management log is going to, be a quarterly audit or something like that. But it's how you are going to tie this up in a nice bow. And so what I'd like to do tonight, I'd like to answer questions for people. Everybody can go through whatever you have questions on, the run charts, the PDSA forms, whatever. And then I would like to have each of you pull up your favorite run chart. I'd like you to pull up a process and an outcome. And I would like you to tell us how you're going to summarize that. It would be exactly what you're going to write in your summary. We're just going to practice it so that everybody can get the hang of this. Because the reason I am being so nitpicky about this is if we can get it super close, you literally will be able to take this and paste it into your paper. So that's what I'd like for you to be able to do. So I would like to work on that. And then, of course, anything else that you want to. Oh, Wendy, can you hear?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Does that sound okay to everybody? All right. So let's just open it up to questions. What problems or dilemmas or what's going on that we can. And I'm also, the other half of what's going to happen is I am going to turn my mute on. And I'm going to I'm certainly going to be here and help you. But what we're trying to do is develop you into quality improvement leaders. And so I would like to take a little bit of a step back here. I'm here and I'll jump in when I need to, but I really want you all to help each other. We all know that it doesn't matter where you are or what your project is. There's very common threads that are applicable to everybody. So I'm going to open it up. I'm going to mute, and I'd like you all to pitch in and help each other with whatever problems you're having. So anybody feel free to start.
Tia, was you going to say something?
I can.
I was going to say, well, you unmuted, and I was going to say something, but I was like, I wonder if she's about to say something.
No, go ahead, Whitney. That's fine.
Okay. So I was, and Dr. Butler, I will admit, I've seen where you grade mine, but I haven't looked at the critiquing of it yet. So, wait a minute, that was stupid. Hold on, let me screen share. I just wanted to, can y'all see my stuff? My screen?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So I went through and I fixed, because I realized, Dr. Butler, that on my C process and my D process, I was measuring the exact same thing. Like I was coming up with the same number. Like it was basically the same thing, and it didn't need to be. So I fixed that today. And I also put in from where I collected Tuesday and I collected today, and I put that information on here also. And Dr. Butler, I was just hoping everything looked better, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well, I think what had happened is, and this is fairly common, when people think about their right care, they sort of get their right care confused with their aim. And so in their right care, they put their screening. And so their screening looks like their aim, and their right, it all becomes one blur. So you were exactly correct to catch that. And I think that was when you or I can't remember which one of us said, why do these look the same? So I hadn't caught it either. So that was a great job catching that. So if they look differently, and when I get your data, I'll look at it. But this is screening. This is screening and effective care. So this is your aim.
Yes, ma'am. This is my aim.
Yeah. This is good.
Okay.
I mean, there's
just
not a
wanted
wrong, right?
Right. I just wanted you to look at it just to be sure. Because I just happened to look at it the other day and I was just kind of like, oh, I'm doing this wrong. So, I worked on it while watching Criminal Minds and starting on my Blizzard, and I'm finishing it today. So I just wanted to make sure you looked at it. Okay, cool.
Tia, what was your question?
I didn't really have one. I was just unmuting so I could talk to everybody. But I guess my main thing the last time was like one of my tests of change was management engagement for my ramp C, like getting them to round on the floor. And I had a hard time getting their actual presence there, in that they said that they were going to round every shift with me, and it happened one time in the PDSA cycle. So I'm saying this next time that I'm going to have charge nurses do it, because I can engage them. They're there every shift, and they're living this like on the floor with all of us. So I don't know. I guess that was the biggest problem that I ran into this last time. The extrinsic rewards that we all talked about, it actually worked. And these people are actually using my stuff. So that's kind of cool. Wendy, thank you. Bethany, thank you. Candy is a huge motivator.
I was gonna say, I'm pulling that out this time. Now, you know, my team. So my project is huge when you look at the big picture, because I'm in 3 different departments. So I have about 100 employees that I'm trying to motivate to do this. So from a team engagement, so in the OR, we do daily huddles. We've done daily huddles. We will always do daily huddles. It's just trying to get them to be a little bit more effective and a little bit more engaging, like team member participation. And then, so I implemented huddles in our pre-op area because they weren't huddling at all. Some staff comes in at 5:30, some staff come in at 6, and then by the time everybody's there, they're right in the middle of the day, so they really didn't have a good time. And they love huddles. Like, they are so excited about their huddles. They've tried different times to see what works best. I think they finally found a time that it's most convenient for everybody. And so that was going to be my biggest surprise. They love them. They're going to continue them after my project is over, because it's like their shift coordinators really like it, their charge nurses like it, their manager, who's new to the department, is just thrilled about it. Now, if only I can get that in my PACU area, which I don't think huddles is it for them, because once again, it's like staff get there at 9, staff get there at 10, and by the time everybody gets there, I mean, they're just slammed with patients that there's really no good time. So for them in the communication and engagement piece, it's not going to work. Huddles aren't going to work for them. So now it's just trying to figure out what will work future down the road for them to kind of figure out. So that was a nice learning curve. But now I want to continue. Like I told him this week, I'm like, this week and next week, that's all we got. So I'm going to do here's your chocolate, here's a gift card, just to kind of, so we could finish out the project strong. And so yeah.
Why don't you try, I mean, so the things that I'm going to start, as I hear things, I'm going to jump in and just tell you things about your paper that are coming, that come to me. Yeah. So one of the things that it asks in your paper are, what are some unanticipated outcomes, benefits, or, you know, negatives. So that would be a positive, that your pre-op loves the huddles.
Yeah.
But there's no reason that you have to shove huddles down everybody's throat. No. If it does not work for your PACU people,
right,
but communication's still an issue. So what would work for them?
So when I've talked about it so far, they have this little clipboard where they write notes. And then, because like everybody who comes in knows to go to the clipboard to see if there's any pertinent information that needs to be shared among everybody. That's kind of what they've done. It works for them because everybody's coming in at different times. Mm-hmm. And so for them, it's a piece of paper on a clipboard that works, because it's like email is hit or miss.
Why don't you look at the piece of paper?
Yeah, and see what's on it.
And see if you can make it better, or see if maybe a whiteboard would be nice underneath.
I was going to say a bulletin board.
Yeah, but
Right.
a whiteboard where they could, you know, or some, you know, I would bet that you can improve that thing.
Yes, I could if when I look at it. So, I mean, it was, you know, I'll take defeat, not necessarily defeat, but it's one of those things where it's like, I get huddles don't work. I just wanted to try just to see. And I know their kind of governing body is looking into what's the best way to communicate with this fast-paced environment where people are coming in and out, shift are arriving at all different times, to get pertinent information out that isn't necessarily email. Because it's like, yeah, we all, you know, read our email, but we don't really read our emails.
Yeah, but you don't carry it around with you. You don't check it before you walk in the door.
No, and then, I mean, there could be days where you don't have time to check it, and it could be a week later before you check your email, and you've missed a whole bunch of stuff that you should know about and that management is expecting you to know about. So I mean, even their governing body is looking at how can we best, you know, communicate with our PACU environment because it's so different.
So we'll be waiting to hear what exciting thing you have done for next week when we come back.
Yes. So,
hey guys, I'm going to interrupt you 1 second because I just thought of something. When is our Pechacucha? Okay, I'm here. Never mind.
The 14th.
I'm here for it. Yep, the 12th and the 14th. I'm here. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we will expect to hear that exciting thing. Does anybody have any ideas for her? Anything that they've done? I mean, Tia, you're in a fast pace. Huddles are working for you though. What about you guys? What other types of communication could she think of?
We just started emailing out minutes for all of our team members that are either offsite or busy or doing whatever. Then we have champion-led meetings, and one person does the recording on their computer. They'll type up everything pertinent, and then they'll type with the minutes and then email them out to all team members. And then at the beginning of the next meeting, we go over just real quickly last week's minutes and just catch everybody up if they have any questions, and then we proceed with the current meeting. And that has been working wonderfully.
So what you're doing is you're kind of double dipping, right? You're not saying I'm just going to do minutes, but you're saying I'm doing minutes. People come to the meeting. I'm sending those people out minutes as well as the other people. And when we come back for our next meeting, I'm just doing a quick summary of the high points of the meeting. So that's the thing that I would say to all of you. That's sort of the theory of the Swiss cheese, right? So don't just, if one thing works, you know, maybe keep the one thing and add something else, or, you know, hit it from all the different sides. Then you're more apt to get it done. I was just going to say something and it left me, so I'm going to be quiet. That's a great
thought. Like a daily brief, like create a binder, have a daily brief for management, and then on top of that, like on the date, have a like you were talking about, like a clipboard where or like a note thing from staff where they have like whatever needs to be discussed that day. So then each day, like if you came in no matter what shift, you could grab a hold of the binder, flip through the week, and look at the specific day.
Well, and I bet that sheet that you have has like, I bet there's always something about anesthesia, or there's always something about supplies, or, you know, I bet you could take a look at that and get them to help you, because this is their deal, right?
Right.
And say, what are the, I mean, I've looked through the last 2 weeks and here are the topics that I come up with. And then go to the books and see what you can find.
Is like the binder like attached? I mean, not the binder. Is the clipboard like attached to like a desk or something? Or
I think it's, I haven't like physically laid eyes on this clipboard, so I don't know if it's like in their break room, because it's like everybody goes to their break room, puts all their stuff up, gets, you know, puts their lunch, and so I don't know if it's there or if it's, I mean, there's so many paper on like one of their desks. I mean, I'll have to like find what this clipboard is and see where it's located, and it's probably on like their charge. Yeah.
What is the other thought when you are implementing something, when you're improving something? Is it easier to implement something that's brand new, or to fold it into something that already exists?
Fold it into something that already exists.
So when the conquerors came, when all the different religions, one conqueror after another, you know, the reason Christmas is on Christmas Day is because that was some pagan holiday, and they wanted to get rid of it. So they kept the day, switched the name, you know? So this has been happening forever, and it's much easier to do that. So think about that as you're making your continued changes. Okay, great discussion. What else is struggling for people? You've got basically 1 week left. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think for me, like I get my run charts, I get my aggregate data, the summaries.
Okay. Okay. Well, does anybody have anything else?
I'll say the summary, and I haven't reviewed a lot of the notes that you gave me on mine either, but
that was just for this time.
I've been working like crazy. But when I was reformatting mine for this submission, I went back to that Digital Depot and looked at done complete papers, because one of the feedback that Dr. Butler gave to me is like, talk about the trends, talk about the like a run and all of the terms. Well, to me, that little tab on the Excel thing was not enough. Like I needed to have something tangible that like made sense to me. So reviewing the old papers, I got it. Like it made sense. Like I could figure out how I was going to get it out. So
Tia,
okay, that's a good idea.
Can you pull up one of your process and outcome charts and talk us through your summary? Any one intervention you want, but pull up the process and the outcome.
Yes.
And then we'll go through each of you and have you. The trick with this is sometimes if your process, say your attendance is always like it went to 90% and it stayed between 90 and 95%, the whole 3 cycles or 4 cycles. In one sentence, you can say the process, the attendance rate immediately reached 90% and stayed within the range of 90 to 95% for all 4 cycles. Just, period, the end. I mean, what else do you have to say about that? And then you can go into your outcomes and the things you did to improve your outcomes, or vice versa, however it goes. So Tia, pull up 2 if you can.
2.
Can you do that? Can you pull up a
Can you see that?
We can see the checklist used. So this is your process.
That's the C process.
Can we see your outcome?
There's outcome.
Can you put them on the same screen? Can you put them side by side?
I don't know. Maybe if I open that again. Hang on.
You might
There's
have
my voice.
Oh,
Sorry.
they're so cute. You might have to download it so that once, you know what I mean? So you can have them both.
Let's look at this. I wonder if that's the PDS. Oh, because I can't.
It's okay.
Could I open it?
It's okay. Just put one up.
You may be able to, like, if you go, like, actually open Excel, you may be able to open another to get it to where.
That's what I was thinking. Like, open it again.
But can you open it again if it's already open?
That's what it.
Yeah, I don't think you can. Yeah.
It's just going to give you another tab. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So talk to us about this one and tell us the story of how you write your summary.
Oh my.
Can you have so this is your process. Can you have your outcome open so that you can see it, or can you not do that?
I can't do that.
Okay.
Because I would have to click, you know what?
Let's look at your outcome real quick.
Okay. So this is chest pain protocol initiation from the nurses from when they first present.
So put that in your brain, and we can fake the numbers, but put that in your brain for a minute, what that looks like. Now go back to your process and let's hear your story.
So initially the team lacked overall engagement and motivation in the process of using the triage checklist out to screen patients for potential protocol initiation. So initially they were using the checklist with a median of about, in the first cycle, I don't know what.
Just guess.
We'll say 35%. I initiated a whiteboard checklist, and motivation and engagement continued to be something that was lacking, and the team continued to underutilize the checklist as proposed. So in the third PDSA cycle, I initiated increased management presence, or proposed increased management presence within the department. Ancillarily, I, as a team engagement driver, I introduced extrinsic rewards for teams that were meeting the goal of initiating triage chest pain protocols at 40% or greater for those that presented on that date of service. And as you can see, the checklist utilization increased to a mean of 61% for PDSA 3, which was a 30% increase as compared to PDSA cycle 2. And then on the C outcome, chest pain protocol initiation increased to 56%. And that's an increase of 31% as compared to PDSA cycle 2. So I would like to say that management presence kind of caused this progression and steadiness of results here. However, I think it's the extrinsic reward that I used to motivate the team that led to these outcomes.
Okay, that was very good. Thank you. Now let me see. Don't go away. Don't go.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Go back to your checklist if you can.
Okay.
The usage. There you go. So baseline use of a checklist for protocol initiation, for nurse-led protocol initiation, had a baseline of approximately 35%. After the first PDSA cycle, which I don't know really where that was. Where was that? January 16th?
16th through the 26th.
16th through the 26th. Okay. Baseline stayed, the median stayed approximately the same with the initiation of this checklist to get the protocols being used. There was a supportive, the outliers you can mention or not mention. The team appeared to be unmotivated, and so to improve motivation, management was asked to come and participate in the meetings, as well as a competition was started. And there was an association or a correlation between the increased management presence, even though they only came once, and the extrinsic rewards of a competition, which now in PDSA 3, we have a median of approximately 60%.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't tell cause and effect. However, if you look at run charts and you think about, this is a process of replication. So when you get a certain number of data points above the median, below the median, trends, shifts, you can then infer that there is an association and that it will continue to replicate. Okay, that is the beauty of, that's what these timed run charts, these charts that are over time show.
Mm-hmm.
So what we are doing here is you're giving specific data. You are organizing it according to your run charts, or I'm sorry, according to your PDSA cycles. So PDSA cycle, we did this. And then this was the apparent result. We can't say it caused it, but the result that we see is this.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to give a data point. You can say the median, which is perfect. And then when you see that, it's a very short, brief, and we learned that using this checklist, we had a very unmotivated team. And despite having a checklist, that we needed to motivate them. Your motivation then was to bring management and to do your competition. So you're doing your learning in very brief, that's the kind of the bridge that hooks it together. Does that make sense for everybody?
Yes.
So I did this, I saw this, I learned this, which led me to do this in PDSA cycle 2. Now I'm orienting you in PDSA cycle 2, I did this. This was the result. This is what we learned. So in PDSA cycle 3, we did this. This was the result, learned this, and et cetera, et cetera. The trick comes when you try to put your process in, because it's one paragraph for your process and your outcome. So how you marry those together, that's where you have to practice a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense, everybody?
Yes.
And that's why when you get done with this, when you turn it in to me on next Sunday, I would like to have 3 or 4, no more than 3 or 4 of your annotations. Because if there's more than 3 or 4 annotations in this small little run chart, they tend to take over the run chart. And really the main visual here is supposed to be the run chart. So I think that high census, low engagement, supportive RN. So you might want to change that word, because look what we have here. High census and low engagement, i.e. motivation. Unmotivated. I mean, engagement and motivation are a little bit different. Then you have a supportive RN. So are you seeing what you can see here? Are you noticing this, Tina?
Noticing
Low engagement, high engagement, low engagement, motivated.
And then up. Yep.
So you're really finding that there's a strong correlation between your team. Now, can you quickly go over to your team outcome? So look at that.
Mm-hmm.
So the other thing I'm going to ask all of you to do is I want you to print out this week all of your run charts, every single one of them. And I want you to paste them, process, outcome, all the way down, aim at the top, balancing on the bottom. And I want you to step back and I want you to look at them. And I want you to say, wow, gosh, when this one went up, this one went up. The fancy word for that is there's an association between this team now being motivated. You have finally done it.
Mm-hmm.
With probably, if you look at your B outcome, let's look at B outcome. And C outcome.
Oh, come on.
And D outcome.
Which all follow the same trend.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you start to see that team, whether that was the egg before the egg before the chicken, which is first, but it seems that, and that's why it's important also to have your little annotations hooked to the right spot. But my guess is that when your team finally got motivated, engaged, etc., everything started to flow, which is a big deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So thank you, Tia. Who wants to go next?
I can go next.
Okay. Let's see what you got there, Whitney.
Oh, here we go. Oh, wow. Okay. Can y'all see my stuff?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Let me move this down here. So I guess
and this is your elevator speech. You want to be able to do this in literally you could read your paragraph in maybe 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see what you got.
Okay. Do you want to talk about my screening one?
You pick.
Screening and identifying?
You pick.
Okay. Okay, I'll just do my screening and identifying.
Okay.
So, okay. So implemented, sorry, we implemented a screening form. Wow. Okay, we implemented a screening form and to identify the people who need the HPV vaccine series, and the qualified patients were patients over 18 to 45 and who had never received the series. In the beginning of PDSA 1, I was at a different site, but was able to come back and get information. Get able to get my data with my home team. And I guess February 7th, I guess that would be what, PDSA 2, and PDSA 2, we did not screen we did not screen or implement that day due to an on-site issue. But once we were able to screen again, we were able to go back up. Our median was 87. Our goal was 80%, but our median is 87% at screening and identifying the people who need the vaccine. Because I feel like my data is everywhere. I need help.
Okay, so tell me in PDS, let's go to your screening.
What do you mean by that? Like this is this right here? Okay.
Okay. So this is the use of using the screening form, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what was your baseline?
My baseline was 75.
Okay. And so you start with my baseline screening using this baseline screening was 75% for the HPV vaccine. That's your first sentence.
Okay.
So go ahead.
Okay, so my baseline screening was 75% implemented at a different site, and our baseline went
But
from
is that
70.
important? Is that does anybody who's trying to figure out what you're doing and how you did it, do they care?
Well, I don't know. I feel like, did we discuss that I need to put that on there in the beginning, or is it okay if I take it off?
I think that I forgot that we did it for that reason.
Because
I would just make that one quick, baseline was 78%. Oh gosh, I don't even know if it's worth it.
Okay, because I mean, I could take it off. I just wasn't sure.
Yeah, leave it for now. But what's missing here is, did you do anything to change or to improve the screening process?
Well, we were handing out, as far as, yes, ma'am, we were handing out, making sure we were handing out all, because I ended up finding out that my my front desk people weren't handing them out to all of my patients. So I just made the assumption that everybody was throwing them away, but she was like, oh, I didn't know I was supposed to hand it out to everybody.
Okay, so if everyone was not getting the screening form, how is it that it's 100%?
Well, I didn't know what to put in the beginning. Well, I put it at 100% in the beginning because I thought everyone was getting screened. And then when she said they weren't the other day, I didn't know how to put that into a number fashion, because I don't know what percentage were and were not being, you get what I'm saying?
So one of the things that you're going to find in that Squire paper, this is another one, is they ask, what did you do with missing data?
Okay.
So what did you do and how did you mitigate, or what was the missing data and how did you mitigate it? So what you would want to say in your paper, your Squire paper, not this, but your Squire paper, is that you discovered in cycle 3 that there actually was missing data along the way, but you didn't know who or how many, and so how did you fix that? No, that's a question. How did you fix it?
Oh, how did I fix it? I made sure that I reiterated to her that it was important that you hand it out to all the patients.
Okay. So the thing that we're missing on this run chart is the interventions that you did each cycle to increase or improve or maintain, because as I say, even though you were at 100%, if you have a tree or a little plant and you don't keep watering it and keep giving it sun, it is going to wither. So what were your interventions? This would be a one sentence. This would be a baseline started at 78%. And that was at a different, the project manager was moved to a different site. So began piloting the screening form, started out at 78%, got to the project site, and implementation rose to 100%. This was maintained throughout the entire project, except for one day during an acute crisis at the office, at 100% by this intervention, and this intervention. That's it. 2 sentences done with screening.
Okay.
Because you don't have, there's no exciting story here, right? It's not like I tried this.
Right.
It's always 100%. So you got to, but I would also say then wherever it was, PDSA 2, 3, wherever it was that you found this out, that you discovered that all of the patients were not getting this form, only what patients?
You said only you said only which patients?
Yeah, which
she just said that she wasn't giving them out to everybody because she didn't think it was, I don't know which patient.
So there was no rhyme or reason why she gave it out sometimes and she didn't.
No, ma'am. I could go back and ask her. That's just what she told me the other day, and I was like, oh, okay.
So how do you know, were you not comparing how many forms, how many checklists were used with how many patients were seen that day?
Well, what happened was, so there's 2 providers, and my other lady that I have that's in there, she's precepting someone else. So like our screens are the same. There's no different, like there's no way to differentiate her patients from mine. So like through the day, like as I was getting them, I was like, oh, okay, because some people come in, like at Planned Parenthood, just the way the visits are set up, some people only see for like a couple of minutes, or they're walking by me and I'm like, hey, you know, something like, I'm not sitting down with everybody, if that makes sense. So to me, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense, because I haven't seen that many people. But then I was like, I don't know, I feel like I have. So it was hard for me to go back and see which ones are mine or not. Or like for some reason, like if you came in just to get a depot, my name might be on it because I would be the provider at that time. So technically I didn't see that person, but my name is on it. If that makes sense.
I understand that. That makes this open to question. And I think that you're going to have to be very transparent with that. And you're just going to have to say in PDSA, whatever cycle it was that you discovered this, you discovered that it wasn't 100% of these forms that were being utilized, but due to the nature of the way your scheduling occurs, there was no way for you to double back and discover what this rate was. But I think you need to be very transparent with that. And then what you need to do is for this last week, you need to figure out a method for how you can discover how many of them actually get handed out. So you need to keep track of how many patients you see.
And I did do that. For this week, I definitely did do that. I kept track of how many patients I've seen. Yeah. And I just had to like have it tallied and
right. And so
I wrote down
how many you saw with how many of these came back. And that is going to probably give you a better average of how, and then you're just going to tell the story. Okay. Now, when you go to your other one, so it's always good. There's always something that we discover, right? How are we going to, because we aren't perfect. How do we discover these things? The important piece is to be transparent and to try to mitigate it. Even if it's the last week, you try to mitigate what it was. And then if your run chart ends up looking like this, where it comes back down towards the last 2 weeks, then that will simply say, this is a more, probably a more accurate description of what, how many of these were being used.
Okay.
Okay. So for this one, I would say, see, the thing is, what you don't have here is you don't have any of the interventions that you did. So tell me what interventions you did each. Do you have your test of change worksheet around?
Yes, ma'am.
That looks like it's it.
Yes, it is.
Okay, let's look at C.
Wait a minute, why is this not going on? Okay, so C.
Yeah.
Screening and identifying.
Then you laminated it, then you placed it on the bulletin board. So these are the things that should be on that run chart.
Okay, so put this on my run chart.
Those 4 things. So the first one is there. You know, it's your pilot, the new one. So now laminated, bulletin board, and handheld Merck infographic. Okay, so now go back to your outcome for me. So knowing those 3 things, that it was the, oh my God, I forgot them already. Whatever they were, the laminated, the bulletin board, and then the handheld. Tell me now about your story.
Okay. So
your baseline was what? No, go back to your data.
Oh, okay. So my baseline was 15%. We implemented a screening form, a modified CDC HPV tree, decision-making tree. And our baseline went from 15% to 100%, 75%. Then what did I do after that? Oh, then we added the statements to ask people why they didn't want the vaccine. And of course, like I said, we didn't implement on this day. And then we laminated and put it up on the bulletin board.
Okay, so that's all over the place. I need you to give me a really, in PDSA cycle 1, and you know what? I just decided what you should do. you should either take out, since it really doesn't affect your run chart, you could take out the at a different site and then just start with your back home site.
Okay, so just take that out.
So you would take January 17th. Don't do it now, but just take it right out. Because it didn't really, it just let you try it. So
Right.
baseline started at 18%. We implemented a checklist or whatever it was that you implemented, and this demonstrated an 80% identification of people needing the HPV vaccine. And then in PDSA cycle 2, so the screening rate, so in order to increase it, then the next one was the laminated version. So in PDSA 2, we laminated it and put it somewhere, wherever it was, and we noticed a range of approximately 78 to 100%. In PDSA 3, we had an office crisis and no tools were implemented, but we went back up to 80 to 100%. And in PDSA 3, we put it on the bulletin board as well as the laminated copy, and it went down to, it had a range of 70% to 85%.
Okay, and you can do ranges, right? We can put that in there.
But the thing that you see here is, I can't tell a story without the annotations. And you also need to explain in part. If somebody needs to mute, there's an awful noise. Mute. Oh, thank you, whoever it was. You also need to explain how you implemented, right? So it was an evidence-based thing that you implemented. You don't need to explain that. But then when you went to 100, when you decided your next step was going to be to laminate it, what led you to that? Were yours getting moved or thrown out? I can't remember. There was something.
Yes, ma'am. It was something like that. Yes, ma'am.
Well, you need to know what that is. And then that's why you laminated it. And the results were blah, blah, blah. And then there was a reason why you then also, I don't know if you also kept the laminated and decided to add with the whatever it was that you added. But that needs to be in there. That story needs to be, there needs to be the learning why you decided to make that next change. What led you to that next change?
Yes, you know what? I laminated it because the staff asked me to laminate it. That's what it was.
There you go.
Yeah.
Staff request.
Okay, so I can put all that on there.
So each one of those, so you're going by your cycles, PDSA 1, PDSA 2, why this change occurred, your results, and then why that change occurred, and the next change was blah, blah, blah. So it's really, this is not a secret. This is not hidden from you. It's very clear. You should be able to look at this run chart and write that paragraph.
Okay.
And you'll also decide which, again, you want 3 to 4 of your annotations on there. But if that really, like if it didn't do anything, I'd make it really brief or not put it on there, you know? Honest flubs and failures are absolutely part of what we do. So when you tried something and it tanked, then you learned that didn't work. Or was it context? Was there something else, like you had this crisis here? So I would want to mention that context because that was a clunker of a day. Now, you have to be professional and politically correct. We can't know details. But you could say there was a crisis at the office simply. And nothing, project progress came to a halt. Something like that.
Okay.
Does that make sense, Wendy?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you want to try another one? Or should we go on to somebody else and then you can try another?
Can we go to someone else?
Yes.
Okay.
We did. Bethany, did you do yours, Wendy?
Oh, shoot.
Bethany and Wendy, whichever one he wants to go next.
I'll go next. All right.
Now somebody else is going to help. I'm going to sit back and be quiet.
Okay. So let's go. Okay, so we'll go to my.
Yeah, pick one where there's a little
screening
bit of a story to tell us.
All right. So here is my screening tool utilization. So I implemented a hypothermia screening tool utilization, and my baseline data was at 37% of screening hypothermia patients. In the first PDA cycle, I initiated the screening tool and saw an increase of utilization from my baseline of 37% to a range of 35, or from a range to 15 to 45%, due to various reasons. In PDSA cycle 2, I placed the tools were being placed in the charts by the unit secretary. We saw a brief increase of utilization, followed by a decrease because of bad weather and late staff. In PDSA cycle 3, I started to only screen 3 anesthesiology patient load, and my utilization increased to 100%.
Clear. I can tell from each PDSA cycle what you did. The only thing that you didn't do is tell me why. So I think that you have also, you also aren't saying whether this is 1 site, 3 sites, 2 sites.
What do you mean by sites?
Is it your OR, your PACU, and your pre-op?
So in PDSA cycle 1, the screening tool was initiated in the pre-op area. And so the goal was for the screening tool to be, started in the pre-op by the pre-op nurses, placed on the chart for the OR to continue with the screening tool, and then finished in the PACU, and then PACU was to turn them in.
Okay.
And then in cycle 2, the pre-op recommended that the tools be placed in the charts by the unit secretaries when they prep charted the night before, so that they would make it to the charts. So we did that, and then, pre-op would start it, OR would finish it. But then looking at my data, their patients aren't cold in pre-op. So then we changed it, and we started just screening in the OR and PACU in PDSA cycle 3.
Makes much more sense. That makes much more sense. And the only thing you left out was you sort of stopped telling us about data, specific.
Right.
You don't have to tell us about every data point. And again, your bad weather, well, you may want to mention it. You may not want to mention it. It was 1 date.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
So the only thing I would say is PDSA cycle 1 initiated screening tools. So if your baseline was 38 and you initiated the tools and it was 0, is that correct?
So, so our baseline, so patients weren't really being screened. So when I came up with my baseline, I just went back to I'm trying to figure out how I got my baseline.
Well, you need to look at that, because that looks a little like.
Yeah. And so, right. And so then on the first day, like on the first 2 days of cycle 1, nothing, like no tools, nothing was being used, because the pre-op nurses were confused. Because they would take the patient's temperature and nobody was cold, so they didn't realize that they still had to initiate the tool.
So those are things that you might want to add, that there was confusion, that tells you for yourself, for your own growth and for everybody else's growth, that I didn't do a good enough job explaining how this is going to be used. But that's a much more explicit or descriptive story, and really we understand. And those are important pieces. Started out in pre-op or started out in OR and added this. Those are pieces that I would think are very important.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does.
And then you decided, don't forget that when you went to just the 3 anesthesiologists, you want to explain that you shrunk it. That the process was struggling. And so your decision was to make this small and see if you could get it to work. And now I know you're adding anesthesiologists.
Correct.
But so the why is important. And the why can be that the team, that was a suggestion from a team. That's a perfect, like you want in buy-in, right? So that's perfectly fine. It didn't work. I mean, you stayed the same. It's not that it didn't work, but it didn't move you forward.
Right.
And so what you see, what would everyone's comment be by, okay, we're only using 3 anesthesiologist patients, but we're up at 100%. What does that mean for the project?
It's a huge jump.
But what does it
That's a-
mean? Yeah, it's a huge jump. That's a result. That's an observation. What does it mean? She struggled. She was at 30%, 30%, 25%.
So now the tool is being utilized.
And so it is being utilized. It's possible, right? The process
Yeah.
does work. It's just that she started too big.
Yeah.
And yeah, she started too big and she needed to shrink it, get it going. This is a classic example of, some people want to, their change that they'll do is I'll spread, but they're spreading before they're ready to spread. She just started out really big.
Way too big.
And should have started out smaller. But
Right.
you know what? That's something now you will never forget that. You will remember that forever.
Yeah.
Well, when you said 100 people, I was like, golly, that's a lot of people. I can't get my 4 or 5 to do what I want them to do.
I mean, I do have to say I have a lot of data. So like my screening, like I have almost 200 screening tools and I have almost 130 patient engagement tools. But when you look at my patient volume, so I'm on every single patient. And so when I have, 15 patients a day times 5 days, I mean, I have large volume.
But this is population health. That's what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be, looking at not just a person, but a whole population. And so that's what you've done.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to run through it again or you think you're okay?
I think I'm okay.
All right. Oh, this is a fun one.
That one?
Yeah.
This is my outcome.
I know. That's wild.
It is.
But you know what? You can see, what is the word? What is the word that I'm looking for? What do I see here?
Variation.
Variation, yes, which we're trying to not have variation. But what do you see the last half of this?
I mean, it's a positive trend. So, at the first 2 cycles, the tool wasn't being utilized. So my identification was low, and now I've shrunk it. So now I'm using more tools effectively. So now I'm identifying patients more appropriately.
Why did you raise? Oh, that's the median. That's funny. I don't know why the median looks like that. Where was your? Oh, so your goal line. You got to fix that goal line, woman.
I know. I think I'm gonna have to move it down to 50%. I was super ambitious.
Yeah, but I mean, you started out at 38%. I would put it to 50 or 60%.
Right.
But the interesting thing here is with your median, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh.
I mean, I have a trend. I mean, it's like I'm trending and I'm trending in the right direction.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I have lots of trends throughout all of mine because it's like, I mean, my management, I mean, that's, so it's like, there's, it's like my median changes. I mean, I got them all over the place. So yes, I'm trending positively. Good. And so I'm seeing those trends.
The other thing that I would send you all back to as I struggled, oh my God, my brain was absolutely fried yesterday, Tuesday, as I was grading everybody's run charts. So think about this. You each have 10. I have 10 of you.
Yeah.
So when I was talking Tuesday night, I'd done over half of them. And I swear, I think my brain was mush. But so in my error of not being able to explain the last little rules for run charts, I went back to Ogrink and I looked it all up. And I would encourage you all to look at chapter 6 again. It's really helpful of what this all means. So when you start to analyze this, you should be analyzing the whole way. But of course, when you really sit down, that chapter 6 is really going to come in very, very helpful for you. So I would encourage, it's so short and sweet. I mean, it's not heavy or in depth or anything like that. I would really have you look through that again.
Yeah.
All right, Wendy, Bethany, good job.
Can I show you my favorite run chart?
Please do.
This is my favorite run chart.
I know.
I know it's busy.
Oh my God.
It's my favorite.
Well, then I think you should keep it.
I mean, it's just favorite. So it's my favorite because it's showing my utilization of my huddles, and in the blue color is my OR, and it's been pretty stable. They're pretty consistent.
Yep.
But my purple is my day surgery. And so they didn't do huddles at all, and then they jumped, and so they're staying above my goal of 80%. We had a couple of busy days where they missed a huddle, but I've seen lots of growth in my pre-op people,
Mhm.
and then my PACU is my gold. And so then that kind of tells me when we started it, 0% because they didn't do huddles, and then we struggled, and then we did it, and now we're struggling again. So this chart just makes me proud of my
Good.
team.
And then,
And so
let's hear how you would tell us about this run chart. What would your summary be here?
So it's good. Okay, let's see if I can do this one. So the OR would huddle on a daily basis, and so their baseline was at about 82%. I implemented a agenda for huddles so that the team huddles for the OR would be more focused and get more team engagement. So in PDSA cycle 1, I made those, initiated the agenda, and saw an average of 90% utilization. In cycle 2, we continued using the agenda and in motivating team engagement, continue to see utilization of 80 to 100%. In cycle 3, it's working, so we just maintained the agenda for the OR and continue to see between 80 to 100% of utilization. So now when I do this, do I have to do everybody? So like in cycle, it's before this I guess because I'm doing 3 departments, this is when I went way too big.
So this is where first of all, you need to get rid of some of your annotations. Take anything out
it's a busy.
Yeah, that's not important because it's so busy that I bet if you took those annotations out, you may be able to get it. And then I would say that the OR started, since OR was doing it huddles anyway.
Right.
That you started a new agenda form, and the huddles continued at 80 to 90% or something like that. You went down one day, who cares?
Right.
And then in cycle 2, you started huddles in the pre-op. That didn't go over as well because X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And then you initiated, what did you do to make them better? You did something and it rose. Now you have a pretty steady PACU as well. While the OR maintains their 80 to 100%, you have a pretty steady PACU at 85 to 100%.
I was going to say my pre-op is anywhere between 85 to 100%.
Yeah. And then in cycle 3, you began.
I initiated.
You initiated the PACU huddles, which didn't go over well.
No.
Started at 100% just because you did it, but then has not been standardized. Has still had a lot of variation in running between 0 and 50%. And you've realized that form of communication may not fit that site.
Right.
And so after speaking with the team, you're going to do this and see how that use of that, whatever it is, works.
Okay.
That makes sense?
All right. That does make sense, yes.
So PDSAs are your framework, your tree of how you tell your stories.
Okay. All right, I'm done. That's it.
It is beautiful.
I like it.
All right, Wendy, my dear, you're up.
Okay. Let me see. Okay, can you see my screen?
I can.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the run charts I picked was my A process and outcome for my team engagement. My A process is the average score of my QI meeting agenda. We started out at a baseline of 0 because they did not do SCP out. Sorry, my cat is scratching me. They didn't
attack.
I know, golly, she's rotten. They didn't do weekly QI agendas before in regards to the SCP program before I came along and started this project. So do you want me to just read my PDSA, like my summaries?
No, I want you to come right from this chart.
Okay. So we started out with
You implemented weekly huddles with agendas.
Yes, with agendas.
And the result was a 70% use of the agenda and huddle.
Yes, 72% use of agenda in the huddle. And we measured timeliness, participation, and attendance. The next meeting, that was also in PDSA 1, utilization went down to 45% because some of the team members were missing. January 31st, we went up to 59%. And I'm trying to see where my, oh yes, and this is where the survey question was changed from role confusion to communication. And that's what I was trying to measure. Scores went up with that. On February the 7th, we went back down to 50%. Again, a lot, especially during the winter, the team has outreach programs with flu shots and, or not flu shots, but hepatitis A vaccines and flu shots, STD clinics outside. So a lot of them weren't present. February 24th, we went up to 72%. And then I've not put in today's data. The data, we saw a decrease in, when was that? On February the 7th too, because the PDSA 2 champion, who the champions lead the meetings, was uncomfortable leading the meeting. So it really, the flow of the meeting wasn't good. She didn't really go exactly by the agenda. So scores went down. And then the next meeting, the PDSA 3 champion was very confident in leading a meeting. So we got a better score for that one.
Okay, go to your outcome if you would, your team outcome.
Okay, that one's better. This one is much better.
Okay, so now it's not better or worse. Tell me this story. And make sure you mention when the PDSAs were and what the change was and why there was a change.
Okay, so my baseline came from surveys I did on team engagement. My team engagement measurements were team morale, organization, and team communication. My first PDSA, we did, I don't know how to say that.
What did you implement the first PDSA cycle?
On the 17th of January.
No, I said, what did you implement? What was it that you implemented? The QI meeting with an agenda?
Yeah, QI, yes, just doing the QI meeting with the SEP team, apart from the QI meeting that was with the whole health department, which is what they used to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I did for PDSA 1. We also elected a champion, PDSA 1, and she was responsible for making sure that everybody had their questions answered and gathering forms and having everything together for when I came in. Mm-hmm. And that worked out good. Our scores went up from 50% to 68% and then 92% in the first cycle.
Period. So that's great. Baseline was 50. You had your first meeting with an agenda. You scores of team engagement, morale, organization, and communication rose to 68% with the second PDSA. With the second meeting within the first PDSA cycle. A champion was elected who did blah, 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 blah. And the score rose to 90, whatever that is, 92%. That's PDSA 1. Now, what led you to the next change?
I redid the agenda, I think is what I did.
And why did you do that? What led you to that?
Because the first agenda that I was using had a lot of information that was not pertinent to what we needed to accomplish.
And was that yours idea or was it the team member's idea?
Mine, because the first agenda that we were using, we really didn't use it because it wasn't really. Yeah, it was too busy and it wasn't team led.
Okay, so that led you to a new agenda. And your data went from what to what?
From 92% to 82%. Mm-hmm. And I think that was in my PDSA 2 champion when my scores were lower. Both of them were 82% because my champion wasn't she wasn't very confident leading the meetings.
Mm-hmm. And you did something really cool then.
I did.
Do you remember what it was?
Well,
you helped them.
Yes.
You did something that you helped them to be able to lead a meeting. I can't remember what it was.
I used the team steps, how to conduct an effective meeting tool.
Mm-hmm. And so she trained her champions.
Yes.
She helped them to be better leaders.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did that. Thank you. I can't tell you what I've done right now, but you can.
So you want to make sure that you say that, because that was an important piece that you did.
Yes.
And then you had a champion that you not only you elected but volunteered.
Yes, I had only one was elected. The rest of them volunteered.
Mm-hmm. And so that's one statement. It doesn't have to be each time. Now, do you ever have a friend who I'm going to say this to you. The door's open. I just looked to see if my husband's listening. So when my husband would come home from golfing, God bless him, he would tell me every hole and every shot on I said, how's your day, honey? Oh, it was great. On the first hole, I did this. And in the second hole, I did this. And I'd be like, oh my God. So when you tell the story of your run chart, think about my husband golfing. Yeah. You do not have to tell us every single dot on that run chart. Give us the story. Give us the overall. You got 2 minutes of your CEO. Hey, I want to tell you how we started with a baseline of 50 and went up to a median of 90, 85 on team morale, organization, and communication. Let me tell you this story in 2 seconds, because you only have 3 floors that you have to tell them this. And so in the first PDSA cycle, we implemented this agenda. It was pretty busy. It worked well. We went from we increased 20% from 50 to 70%, improved the tool a little bit, rose up to 80% or not. I can't read it, 90%. The team elected a champion, which was great, but they weren't really as confident. And so I trained the champions to increase their buy-in, and another one volunteered, still stayed at 80%. Then the third champion was very confident. She's a leader in our team. We realized that that's what we really needed, and our morale, communication, et cetera, went up to 90%. I mean, that's a 2-second story with data, with ranges, PDSA cycles, why you did it, literally in 2 seconds.
Yes,
and it's an interesting story.
Yes, and I feel like I did that when I'm actually writing it, but I can't just spit that out.
Right. But why I'm asking you to do this is it's just training. It's training yourself to think this way, to say it this way. And I'm hoping that all of you are going to apply to IHI. And so you're going to have your posters. You're going to pick out your 3, and you're going to have people walk by and say, what happened? Mm-hmm. And you need to be able to tell this very concise, because when my husband tells me 18 holes of golf and every putt and every thing that he does, I want to shoot myself. Mm-hmm. We don't want your audience to shoot themselves. So you need to have a short, concise, because this is one of the many run charts that you might be showing. Mm-hmm. She is loving my story. I think it must be relating to you. Do you have is this something that you can relate to?
I'm a girl in a house of 3 boys. It's every day.
Oh, you know what? When my daughter moved out, so I have a boy, girl, boy. And so when my daughter moved out, so the first son was out, I had a boy and a girl. When my daughter moved out, I was like, oh, I'm an athlete. I mean, I love sports, but it was a little rough, I got to say.
It's a lot.
Yeah. So teaching your children and your husband how to tell this story concisely so that you can grab somebody, because that's what you're trying to do. You're not only trying to share the information of what you did and what you thought and how it went, right? Which is very important, because if I want to do this, I want to know what you did. Champions, my God, that's a brilliant idea. Start with somebody who knows what they're doing. Even better. So that what I would learn from this is champions are great, but maybe I want to train them first before I ask them to do it. And maybe I want to choose someone who's really like they have natural leadership skills.
Yes.
And then I'll work my way with the other people, let them watch a little and teach them a little, do some simulate. See, there's where you can really see the story and learn from this. So I would learn that from your run chart. Does that make sense?
Yes. Today was actually the first time today was the first meeting in PDSA 4 with my fourth champion, Leanne, and I took the handout for the effective meeting, and I sat down with her 15 minutes. It didn't take that much time, 10-15 minutes before the meeting, and I said, these are some tips. This is what you have questions about. We went through the little packet together, and today our scores went up to 92%. It was
yay! And I bet she was super excited.
Oh, she stood up and acted like she was the president. She was just doing everything with everybody, and she would look at me and I would shake my head. And what I really loved, over the past really 3 meetings, I haven't said a word. I just sit there. And they do all the emailing, they do all the minutes, they do the signing, recording. I have a timekeeper that says we need to move on. We've got 15 minutes left. I mean, it's just great.
So let us, because you're bragging so much and we're so impressed, let's see some of your other ones and see if we can see as this goes up, is there any correlation there?
Let's see if I can.
You just have to move us.
Yeah, I don't. My favorite aggregate data, this thing is messing up. Hold on.
Don't show us your aggregate. Show us your run charts. Well, I mean, you can show us your aggregate, but I want to see your run charts.
Let me see which one I want to show you. Yes. So today, okay. So this is a big one. Dr. Butler, you and I have talked about this at length for about 6 months now. My bulletin board, my infographic utilization for HIV, Hep B, and Hep C. So today, utilization was, well, for my data point today was 22%. So that went up dramatically from the last data point on the 25th. So I do think that the more engaged we have the team, the better they are at engaging the patients. And
well, and also I think that you discovered that your people are frequent flyers, so they don't want to see the same infographics up there.
Right.
And then you started switching it around, and that seemed to, I mean, you still have a lot of variation,
yes,
but it does look like, it does look like your highs are higher. Your lows are still 0, but your highs are higher.
Yes. And it looks, okay, so like I changed the infographic on February the 22nd. My utilization was 25%. On the 25th, it was almost nothing. I changed them. I'm going to change them again on Monday because we're changing it weekly. And I feel like that by the midweek, they get tired of looking at the same sheets. So they don't pull them anymore. They've already read them, the ones that are going to read them. They've already read them. So I even think that maybe going forward, even after I'm out of there, that changing the pull sheets twice weekly would be better. Now, whether they'll do that or not, I don't know, but I do think that it would help. Or thinking of other ways that you can engage them, because obviously your patients want to be engaged. They want this information.
They do. So thinking about, I think it's a, I'm not sure bias is the right word, or a prejudice, I guess bias, that we think, oh, well, they don't want to be interested. This is this type of patient, and they're not going to be engaged. And I think you've shown that they are engaged. They may not be engaged consistently, and I think that may be part of your population.
Yes.
But they are interested, and they do want information. I'm going to ask you a question because I found this out on somebody else's project. Do you find, or it might have been your project, do you find that people want to be tested, but they're less interested in getting treatment? Yes, and I think this is why. For us, in my part of the country, HIV is really not the big deal. The big deal is hepatitis C. And all of these participants know that they have to be clean for 6 months before GI will treat them for their Hep C. So they just don't even go. Oh, so they have to be clean from drugs. IV drug use for 6 months, or they won't treat them with Harvoni. They just won't. Well, I definitely think that that's something you need to bring into your, I did not know this. Yeah. So I think that's definitely something that you want to bring into your, when you describe this, or maybe in your interpretation section, when you're looking at this variation, that might even come into play in terms of, I'm not interested in HIV or HBV, but I'm interested in HCV and I already read that one. And the other thing that would say to me, now they pull all three though, don't they? Have you found they pulled one sheet more than the other?
Most of the time they pull all three. Every now and then I'll have a participant pull only Hep C.
But you're telling me the incidence of a Hep C is higher than the HIV or HBV?
Yes, very much so. We have had no HIVs and no Hep Bs, only Hep Cs, which is what I expected. Okay,
so what might that cause you to do with your let's hear from the peanut gallery. What do you think she might want to consider? She's got a bulletin board out in the waiting room, and she has drug abusing patients. So this is, a unstable population. And you've just heard all of her talk on HCV, and HBV and HIV are a little bit less of their concern, she thinks, even though they're pulling all three. What might be her intervention for next week?
Altering it to focus only on Hep C, or educating on complications thereof of Hep C.
So if now, is this your hypothesis that they are not going to treatment because they are still using?
Yes.
Is there anything to back that up?
Yes, I will. I mean, just verbalization from the patients, because I mean, a blue million of them. I've said, if you're positive, we'll get you an appointment with GI and all of them, and they know this. All of them.
But they know. Yeah, they know.
They're like, why?
So Wendy, one of the things that I would want to, of course, it's easy for me to remember this. It's not that I'm brilliant, but I'm sitting in the back seat. I'm not feeling your pressure. But one of the things that I would think about is, boy, I'd want to start asking them why. I'd want to document data. So why don't you want to go? Why are you not? Why, I would want to dig into that. I don't know exactly that I know what questions, but I'd want to dig into that and find out, get some qualitative data, see if there's some common themes, because that is going to lead you to, they want more information about Hep C, or they want to realize maybe it's motivation to readiness to change. Maybe that's the next step that you do in your infographics. Are you ready to make a change? Or do you see where I'm going? Like I would want to dig into that.
I do, and I understand that, but I don't think that that's possible, because we don't know of these people, which of these people are positive, unless we get them tested, and then we get the result 5 to 7 business days after that, and then maybe we'll get in contact with them, maybe we don't. Just like, with my...
Right, but do you think you could... So I have to laugh at you, Wendy, because you did a really good job this time. And I swear to God, guys, she bucked me every step of the way. But what
I'm sitting there with these people, and I know what they're going to do and what they're not.
Right, but what I'm saying is, so what if you match them up with the positives? Why not ask them all? Why not ask all of them? If you are positive, like, what is your readiness to change is what comes to mind. And do you need help? So first of all, you want to know if they're ready, right? Because if they're not ready, then that's when motivational interviewing comes in. Like, what are the reasons that would keep you doing this? What are the reasons that you might change? And it's just a path that you could go down. Simply, you could give your team 2 or 3 motivational questions that they could just learn to use those 3 questions. And see if they could dig into, why are we not moving forward? Because it's great to get your testing rate up, but ultimately you want to help them not to use and to be treated for whatever they're doing, right?
Because I guess my question is that they're coming in for testing, but then you're saying that you're having a hard time like getting a hold of them to follow up, or that's a concern that you might have, is like following up with the patients.
Yes, because they come from all over different counties. These people are, they're most of them are kind of travelers. They go to 3 or 4 different fringe exchange programs. So the thing is too, is with treatment, rehab, all that kind of stuff, we don't really push that, because the literature and the training and everything that we went through says not to, because we don't want to run them off, because if they it's like that we're badgering them constantly.
Yeah.
And that's what I think, like, they're a little bit motivated than the average Joe drug user, and that they're going to these syringe programs, exchange programs anyway. So they're wanting to do it, although they're using IV drugs, they're trying to do it in the healthiest way possible. So when you have them there, even if it's not engaging them in a verbal conversation, if it's planting the seed with some sort of educational handout, or like if there was, and this is, I know, but like a television screen that when they're sitting there waiting, if there's some sort of waiting room or something, like it's rifling through messaging that kind of motivates them to change. So at least that seed is being planted when they're in that environment, because there's something there that's driving them to do it in a healthier way than what the average Joe drug user is. So if that's the case, to kind of act when you've got them, and I get you, like, I get what you're saying, because the training that you're undergoing, I mean, you do that and you're going to push them away. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But if you had it, could at least there's some kind of like backhanded messaging that could engage them. I don't know. Maybe that's what Dr. Butler is talking about.
That, and the other thing I was thinking of too is, you don't have to push them towards treatment or rehab, but giving them the resources for them to make the decision. So it's giving them, okay, so, here are some resources that you can go to when you are ready to change. These are the people that you can contact so that they can help you make that change. You may not be specifically asking, hey, do you want to change? Do you want to change? Because they're going to tell you no, because that's why they're there to get their new syringes. But then, kind of subconsciously interweave without, forcefully telling them, here, you need to change. Just give them information so that when they're ready, whenever that may be, they have those resources available to make those changes.
We do that. It's do you need referrals? Yes or no? Do you want to be referred to drug treatment? Yes or no? We ask them all that. That's part of their intake form. But that's kind of not my baby. That's not what I'm doing here. They already did that before I came along.
Right.
My whole thing is about, testing. It's not about rehab services, because they have a caseworker there that does that for them. It's just not part of what I do.
But what I'm saying to you is, and this is what I've been saying to many of you, is once you accomplish your section, so if your section is testing, and once you accomplish testing, you have got to push the edge. So the edge is, what's the next piece that needs to be done? Your section, my section, anybody's section.
I don't feel like we're done though. We're not anywhere near being. I don't feel like anybody should be done with this until 100% of all eligible patients are tested every 6 months. Then you move on to something else. But when you spread, like when you keep doing more and more and more, all you do is overwhelm them. They're in a hurry anyway. Like it has to be focused.
But those that know already, like you were talking about, those that, like, you initially focused on the screening, and then you found out the screening was coming back negative, but it really wasn't negative because they already knew. So those that already knew, like, you can't do anything about, like, with the screening piece anyway, because they already have that positive result. So I guess it's, building upon that knowledge of just like planning risks associated with continued untreated hepatitis C throughout the lifespan, or something like, what I mean? Like, I don't know. I
liked Bethany's, just planting a seed. There is that fine balance, because I definitely hear what you're saying, Wendy, about, we've been trained that we can't push too hard because they're not going to come. So there's that fine balance of not pushing, but planting seeds everywhere you can. And that might be the next step, is what are the subtle pieces that I can have? Can I have a poster up next to your infographics that stays there that says, maybe one poster next to your infographics that says, these are the benefits of quitting, or these are the risks of HCV, and these are what you can do to minimize those risks, et cetera, just thoughts of how we always are pushing that edge. We always are pushing, where's the next level that we need to get to.
Mhm.
And it's hard. It's frustrating. And I think that especially, again, you guys know your sites way better than I do. And I never would, that would not have occurred to me. I'm in the nudge job.
Mm-hmm. Well, what I have been doing, and this was one of my last tests of change, but it hasn't came back successful yet. I've been giving patients when they're eligible for testing, but they say they don't want to be tested today, I give them an appointment reminder card with instructions on it. Like I will write it out, or whoever's doing the exchange will write it out. NEP patient needs HIV, Hep B, Hep C testing, Hep A vaccine, whatever they need, or general checkup, blood work, whatever. And I give that card to them and tell them to call or come or walk in the next day or just make an appointment. And I've been tracking that.
Good.
So
Good.
that was another change that I did for this week.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't know if I don't know if my team can handle any more changes right now. But
You're going to lose your battery.
yeah, I know. It always does that when it takes more batteries when you're talking.
Yeah, and sharing, it does. All right, well, some good changes there. So we've gotten to all 4 of you. Do you feel like you have an idea of what we're looking for in that summary?
I feel like this was very helpful, and I can't wait to replay this later.
Well, that was my next question I know it's somewhat painful to have somebody struggle to say that, but was it helpful to go through it and look at
I definitely. And then when you said printing, I was actually over here like printing, trying to figure out how to not print, to get it scaled the right way. But I feel like once I printed my tested change table, and I feel like once I print off the charts, my run charts, and just, go back tonight. I guess I need to find me another sugar rush. I think it'll be really helpful.
Yeah, and I mean, I would print them out on full-size pieces of paper and just stick them on a wall. And then even take little stickies, these little guys, or write all over and just stick them. Here's all my interventions. Here's my PDSAs. I can just make a line down the whole thing of where my PDSAs were. And then start to look for correlations, associations as you tell your story. And I would do that to write up your 4th PDSA cycle as well as your summary. Oh, and you know what? Yeah, go ahead.
How does this end of PDSA 4, how does this work? And then I heard through the grapevine something about if you don't get a 90% on the final practicum, then you have to do another course, or
no.
How does this work?
So what you're going to do is you come to the last act. So you're going to you already have all your predictions and your learning objectives. You're going to do your study section as you always do. You're going to go to your literature as you always do. Mm-hmm. But what you're going to do for your final act is, this is the close. So what can you pass off to somebody else? What will they keep? What will be sustained? What will end? What will become quarterly audits, et cetera, et cetera.
Gotcha. So my changes that we've already done, that you've already graded for the changes that we're doing for PDSA 4.
Right. So now you're just it's the final act that you need, the study, and obviously your do section, the study, and in that study is the last act.
So we don't have to come up with any big new more tests of change unless
you are finishing. You are ending.
We're done.
You are closing this out. So your project has to come to an end. Yes. If I was going to ask you to do another PDSA cycle, I would have already asked you. So nobody is at that point.
Say, thank you, Jesus.
I was literally just saying that on mute. I was like, thank you, Lord.
Yes. Everybody has things that are more successful and less successful. But the reason I would have you do another PDSA cycle is if I wasn't convinced that you were learning the process. Everybody is going to be less successful, more successful. Some things, we all have our individual things, but that you are learning how to do this, how to gather your data, learn from your data, make a logical and evidence-based next change because of that data. Mm-hmm. That's what we're learning. And now you're also going to start, we're going to shift now and really go into your writing skills and having to be able to write this concisely and briefly. And we've put I think, close to 300 students through. So I promise you it can get done. I'm anticipating Wendy telling me I cannot write this in 2,500 words.
I just can't do it.
You will do it. So the summary, so that's that. Thank you. I'm going to have to write to everybody because I didn't talk about that with the last group. So anymore, it's 6:30. We started at 5. We have a half an hour. Does anybody have questions on what we've done? On your summaries or your PDSAs or your run charts? We're good. Okay, let's talk for a few minutes about the summary. Your summary is a summary of what is done, past tense, okay? So it is not that my 4 interventions will be, it's not that my aim will be, it's my aim was, my interventions were. So this is a project that is done, and you're telling me about what you did, past tense, okay? I think somewhere it says that you can do in bullets what your interventions and those things are, even though the directions say that please give me 2 to 3 sentences or whatever. Please don't do bullets. Now I'm really going to start working, as we have been, but I'm really going to start working on your writing skills and having you learn to say something in literally 2 to 3 sentences. So when you see on the IHA form, whatever section it is, 2 sentences here, 4 sentences here, it has to be what it says. Don't take that away because I still know what it says. And I want you to really work at learning how to speak concisely and how to write concisely. That's why we go through these drills and keep practicing this, because it's actually quite difficult for most people to write up what you've done in the last 6 months and has been your entire life for 6 months in 2,500 words. That's not easy to do. So we're going to just continually work on this and process this the same way we have been throughout the whole thing.
What is the 2,500 words? Is that I haven't looked at the summary.
That's
your Squire.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the summary is very short, actually. It's a 1-page piece of paper. It's quite short. You need to make sure it is signed by your mentor, I believe. Sponsor or mentor, I can't remember which one it is. Somebody signs it. Do not hand it in to me not signed. Know this right now that you have to get somebody's signature. You can type my name in. You can type, I think you can type your name in. I can't remember exactly, but I know that you have to have them sign it. And really the important thing is thinking in a big category. So my interventions for patient and team engagement were this and this. My interventions, and remember, if you are doing a screening, trying to think. So Whitney's doing a screening. Wendy's not doing a screening. I think you're the only one. If you're doing an expert, it's screening first. Everything in your entire paper and each section, even you have your 4 A, B, C, D, it's going to go C, B, D, A. So you screen first, then you do your brief intervention, then you do your treatment, right? That just makes sense. And then your team can go at the front or the back. Most people put the team at the bottom.
Okay, so go CBDA.
Right, screening. Just think about it. Screening. It's this screening. Your brief intervention, which is your B, and your treatment, which is your RT.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So, in terms of writing it, it is these were my interventions, and then I'm trying to think. Somebody pull up the summary and
that's what I pulled it up right here.
Can you share it with us, Wendy?
Yes,
I'm sorry, Whitney, Wendy, you two make me.
I know you always do that, but I know you're talking to me.
I do. I do know which one of you is which one. Okay, so aim of the project, past tense. You know your aim is for whom, by when, how much, and whatever it is you're doing. That's all it is. There's no magic here. Your planned test of changes are your 4 core interventions. Your predictions. So what did you predict about the 4 changes? That's, it's not each cycle. You're not telling me each cycle what you predicted, but you had a team engagement intervention. And what did you predict that team engagement intervention was going to do? Right? Engage your team. Organize your team, communicate, whatever. Don't try to make this harder than it is. Can you scroll to the next one?
Mm-hmm.
So results, this is your 4 paragraphs. What you've been working on. Present your results with a graph. Now, I'm not looking at the directions, people, so make sure you read the directions. But basically, this is presenting your results. And I think I think in the directions she does ask for only 3 to 4 run charts. I can't remember that exactly, but I believe that's what it is. The summary of your results. So this is where you're going to look at the compilation of what you've done with your team. What is the summary of your team? Not my husband's golf game, but what is the summary of your team? You're going to remember this forever. What is the summary of your team? What is the summary of your patient engagement? All right. So it is 3 to 4 sentences. You have 4 core interventions. This fits. Patients and team engagement, if you're doing those, well, everybody had those 2, might possibly make sense to go together. Might not, might. But that's one way to think about that. And then the big learns, right? This is comparison of your questions, predictions, and analysis. So what did you learn after all this? What did you learn about your team and your patient engagement? And were there any correlations or trends or, put data in here? This is a course about data. So please make sure that you have data interspersed throughout here. The impact on the system. Thanks, Whitney, for being my scroller here. The impact on your system, again, the significance on the system. Remember, that is part of your charter. What impact do you think, what benefits do you think you're going to leave? So what was the impact on your system? You could talk about your site in general. You could talk about your team. You could talk about your patients. You could talk about outcomes. The impact. When you walk away, what is the impact? Did they learn about quality improvement and they bucked and kicked the whole way, but they finally get it now? Or maybe not, and that's okay. 8 weeks is terribly short. This is not about your success. This is about the results. And then what do you conclude about this whole thing when you're done? So remember, the impact on the system is maybe possibly deliverables that you left with them, but also conclusions is the overarching, like, this is what I think. I've realized that without teamwork, nothing is going to happen. And patient engagement in this population is very difficult. And yet, as Wendy found, and yet they are interested in HCV, but, whatever. And the last part is just a reflection and discussion. And this, if you look at your Squire paper, that's the other thing that I would pull up that Squire paper. I would pull up the checklist, the Squire E&E, which is the explanation and something, E&E, explanation and something, I don't remember. I would pull those up now and start to just review that. And over the 2 weeks that we're off, I want you to be thinking about that and kind of ruminating on it, because that's going to help you with the real conclusions and what you reflect. And I believe that she does want you to talk about your team. Yes, what are your reflections on the role of the team? So make sure that is at least part of what you write about. Your learner is you. And then down here, faculty sponsor, you can just type me in. The health system sponsor needs to sign this. And then you want to ask your site if you can, if this was be allowable to publish this. And of course, any information would be de-identified. They may want the site noted. They may not want the site noted. So
sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Whitney, go ahead.
What percentage, just guessing, do the publishing? Like out of all the DNA students?
We're getting more and more. I mean, I think that at the first year or two, we were still really in development. And now we're really getting past development. That last term, I want to say, I can't remember if it was about 15 or 20 people went to IHI and 11 were accepted, submitted to IHI, 11 were accepted. And out of that 11, it was something like 7 or 8 were given honorary, kind of little, what do you call them? Stars or something, and there were 3 or 4 that were asked to publish. So each term we're getting more and more. That's the beauty of having a 2,500 word paper, because mine was 70 flipping pages. Nobody is ever going to read that. Yours is going to come out almost publishable. I mean, it's not. You're going to have to do a lot of work to make it publishable, but it's the main bones of it, and some of them do come out publishable. They're really just ready to go. So it's really going to be something that is going to be very good for you if you want it to be, which I would encourage you. I know that you'll all be wanting to run away from this forever, but it's really great that it comes out that way. So the summary has to be well written. It has to be grammatically correct. It has to sound professional. This is not colloquial language. This is very professional, professional language. And don't try to make it more than it is. I still want you to speak very just clearly, but it's full of data and it is in the past tense. None of these things, these are the big pictures of what your predictions were, the big picture of all of the pieces, that the learning, etc. So it's stuff that you've been doing the whole time, but as you sit back and you say, so what did I really learn about teamwork? Okay? And all of that literature that I've been nudging you to make you do, when you go to write your paper, you're going to be so grateful because you're going to have to do comparative literature, and it's there, it's done. I mean, you may still look up some more, but it's there, and it's going to make your life so much easier. So you can curse me this term, and then you can thank me next term. Does that help, guys? Is that clear? I can't believe I forgot to do that with the last group. I'm going to have to write them. Anything else? Any questions, concerns? You're great. You're all doing really well. Really work on your predictions and your learnings, that they're robust and not just black and white, so that when you go to your learnings, you really come out of it. One of the things that we're thinking about doing for next term is, you know how you have your learning from your run charts and your learning from your aggregate, yada, yada, yada. We're thinking of putting one conclusive learn at the bottom. And I wonder if that will help people to really be able to pull all that together and to say, this is what I learned about this whole ramp. So you can think about that if that helps you to do that. Feel free to add one sentence at the bottom of each one, if that's helpful to you. Okay, that's all I got.
What's the difference between this touch point and then and I'm going to butcher this, Pechakucha?
Pechakucha. So the Pechakucha is just your final presentation. It's really it's basically your summary. You're going to pick your run charts that you're going to show, and you are going to go through it all. There's a slides there, a template there for you to fill in. And it's really, the Pechakucha, is that the one that's fun? I think that's the one that's fun. I can't remember that. You can have pictures, and I can't remember which one is which one. The aim is boring. The final presentation is same thing, not boring, but very scientific. I think this is the one that can be fun. So you can look, I would look at those instructions definitely now, because I believe in that one, you can do some pictures and have it be a little bit more interesting, more visually interesting.
When I looked at it the other day, it kind of looks like the final, you know how we do like the final paper, the practicum we were just talking about? It's taking the same pieces from there, but putting in PowerPoint, right? But I was like, oh, that won't be difficult.
No, it really, all of this is what you have done. It's just each one is stepping up now the level of written communication, the level of verbal communication, and pushing you to really be scholars all the way around. So yes, it is easy because it's not new data, but make it beautiful.
And the collaborative learning thing we can do now after this.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, you're almost there.
That collaborative learning thing.
There's a summary, right?
You got to summary of your QI sessions, and was it helpful, and what you liked, what you disliked. It's things that we use.
Oh, like
literally
the presence thing.
Yes, this.
Talking about.
Let's do the 10th.
Yeah, it's called the present social
collaborative
something.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, everybody.
Yep.
All right. I will send this out to you. Congratulations ahead of time. I'm very proud of all of you. I know how hard you've worked, and it's showing. Hang in there, Whitney.
Thank you.
All right, guys. I'll see you next week.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.